Jim Morrison, the enigmatic frontman of The Doors, remains one of the most iconic and influential figures in the history of rock music. With his hypnotic voice, poetic lyrics, and charismatic stage presence, Morrison captivated audiences and left an indelible mark on the cultural landscape of the 1960s. However, his life, steeped in mystique and rebellion, came to an abrupt and mysterious end, leaving behind a legacy shrouded in mystery and speculation.
Morrison's rise to stardom was as meteoric as it was turbulent. As the lead singer of The Doors, he helped to define a generation with songs that spoke of rebellion, love, and a quest for deeper meaning. His lyrics, often laced with existential themes, reflected his complex persona, part rock star, part troubled poet. But Morrison's life was more than just a tale of musical genius and fame. It was a journey marked by personal demons, a constant search for artistic expression, and an unyielding desire to push the boundaries of conventional society. His fascination with death, spirituality, and the darker sides of human experience became a defining element of his music and public image. The mystery of Jim Morrison's death on July 3, 1971, in Paris, France, has been a topic of intrigue and speculation for decades. At the age of 27, he joined the infamous 27 Club, a group of influential musicians who all died at the same young age. The official cause of death was listed as heart failure, but the absence of an autopsy has fueled endless theories and debates. The fact that no one close to Morrison ever saw his body before burial only adds to the enigma, leading many to question the official version of events and speculate about what really happened. This chapter sets the stage for a deep dive into the life and death of Jim Morrison. We will explore his early years, the formation of The Doors, his rise to fame, and the circumstances that led to his untimely demise. As we unravel the layers of Morrison's complex character, we also confront the larger questions about the price of fame, the nature of artistic genius, and the mystery that surrounds the death of one of rock music's most legendary figures. In the chapters to follow, we will journey through the life of a man who was not just a rock star, but a symbol of a generation's hopes, fears, and desires. A man who, in life and death, captured the imagination of millions and whose legacy continues to resonate today.
Before he was the leather-clad, enigmatic frontman of The Doors, Jim Morrison was a son, a brother, and a young boy with a vivid imagination. Born in the winter of 1943 in Melbourne, Florida, to Clara and George Morrison, a naval officer, Jim's early life was marked by frequent moves and a strict military upbringing. This nomadic childhood, with relocations from Florida to California, then to New Mexico, and finally to Virginia, played a pivotal role in shaping Morrison's personality and worldview.
The constant upheaval meant that Jim often found himself the new kid in school, struggling to make lasting friendships. This sense of isolation led him to seek solace in literature and poetry, paving the way for his future lyrical pursuits. The introspective young Morrison was drawn to the works of Nietzsche, Rimbaud, and later William Blake, whose poetic visions would heavily influence his songwriting. A defining moment in Morrison's early years occurred during a family road trip through the desert near Albuquerque, New Mexico. The Morrison family came across the aftermath of a terrible car accident involving a group of Native Americans. The traumatic scene, with its haunting images of suffering and death, left an indelible mark on the young Jim. He later recounted feeling the souls of the dead Native Americans leap into him, a spiritual encounter that he believed profoundly affected his life and art. Despite his intelligence and creativity, Morrison's relationship with his family, especially his father, was strained. His parents' conventional expectations clashed with his burgeoning rebellious streak and artistic aspirations. The tension at home, coupled with his experiences of displacement and alienation, forged in Morrison a deep sense of otherness and a yearning to break free from societal norms. Jim's high school years were a period of experimentation and self-discovery. He delved deeper into literature and philosophy, developing an affinity for the existential themes that would later permeate his music. His rebellious nature became more pronounced, as did his charismatic yet unpredictable personality. In 1961, Morrison enrolled at St. Petersburg Junior College in Florida, later transferring to Florida State University. It was during his college years that his artistic and philosophical interests began to coalesce. His love for film and poetry grew, leading him to the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, where he would eventually graduate with a degree in film studies. It was here, in the creative melting pot of Los Angeles, that the seeds of the Doors were sown.
In the hallways of UCLA's film school, Morrison met Ray Manzarek, a fellow student with a deep interest in music. The two struck a friendship, bonding over shared artistic visions and a mutual desire to break free from the norms of mainstream culture. It was during a chance encounter on Venice Beach in 1965 that Morrison shared some of his poetic compositions with Manzarek. Impressed by Morrison's poetic prowess and unique vocal style, Manzarek proposed the idea of forming a band. Morrison, who had never seriously considered a career in music, was intrigued by the idea.
The Doors, taking their name from Aldous Huxley's book The Doors of Perception, which in turn was inspired by a William Blake quotation, was formed. Joining Morrison and Manzarek were drummer John Densmore and guitarist Robbie Krieger. The band's name reflected their intention to be a medium for a heightened level of consciousness and perception through their music. The Doors' music was a unique fusion of rock, blues, and psychedelia, with Morrison's haunting lyrics and charismatic stage presence at its core. Their sound was distinctively different from the prevailing music scene dominated by British invasion bands. The Doors' music was introspective, dark, and rebellious, resonating with the counterculture movement of the 1960s. Their breakthrough came with their self-titled debut album in 1967, which included the monumental hit Light My Fire. The song's success propelled the Doors into the national spotlight, establishing them as a major force in the rock music scene. Their music was not just popular, it was culturally significant, mirroring the rebellious spirit and existential angst of a generation. Morrison's lyrics, often infused with themes of existentialism, death, and transcendence, became a hallmark of the Doors' music. His onstage persona, mysterious, brooding, and unpredictable, captivated audiences and added a layer of intrigue to the band's performances. Morrison's improvisational poetry readings, unpredictable antics, and charismatic leadership helped solidify the Doors' reputation as one of the most original and provocative bands of their time. Over the next few years, the Doors produced a string of successful albums and hits, including Strange Days, Waiting for the Sun, and the eerily prescient The End, which showcased Morrison's apocalyptic and visionary lyrical style. Their music was not just a reflection of the times, it was a defining soundtrack for a generation grappling with war, social change, and the exploration of new frontiers in consciousness. Behind the public persona of Jim Morrison, the enigmatic rock star was a complex individual navigating the challenges of fame, artistic expression, and personal relationships. Central to this narrative was his deep, tumultuous relationship with Pamela Courson. Their love story, marked by passion, turmoil, and mutual dependency, played a significant role in both Morrison's life and his artistic output. Pamela Courson, often described as Morrison's muse, entered his life in 1965. She was a young, free-spirited, and fiercely independent woman whose personality both complemented and clashed with Morrison's. Their connection was instant and intense, sparking a relationship that would endure until Morrison's death. Corson was a constant presence in Morrison's life, influencing not only his personal life, but also his artistic direction. Her influence can be traced in some of Morrison's poetry and lyrics, where themes of love, longing, and despair often surface. However, their relationship was far from idyllic. It was fraught with challenges, including Morrison's struggles with fame and his increasing substance abuse. The pressures of being in the spotlight took a toll on Morrison, who often turned to alcohol and drugs as a means of escape. This descent into substance abuse exacerbated the volatility in his relationship with Corson, leading to frequent arguments and periods of separation. Despite the tumult, Corson was a grounding force in Morrison's life. She encouraged his poetic aspirations and was one of the few people he trusted completely. Their relationship was a complex interplay of love, artistic inspiration, and mutual dependence, with Corson often playing the role of caretaker as Morrison's substance abuse escalated. Morrison's lifestyle during his years of fame was characterized by excess and rebellion. He lived life on the edge, embracing the rock and roll ethos of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. However, this lifestyle came at a cost. His physical and mental health deteriorated, and his behavior became increasingly erratic. His performances were unpredictable, at times brilliant, at others marred by his inebriation. This period of Morrison's life was also marked by legal troubles, most notably his arrest in 1969 for indecent exposure during a concert in Miami, which further compounded his struggles. The incident was emblematic of Morrison's larger battle with authority and societal norms, but also highlighted his vulnerability to the pressures of fame and his own inner demons. In essence, Morrison's relationship with Pamela Corson and his struggles with fame and substance abuse paint a picture of a man caught between the allure of rock star status and the search for personal and artistic authenticity. Corson, both his muse and partner in a tumultuous journey, played a crucial role in this narrative, influencing not just his personal life, but the very essence of his artistry. The final chapter in Jim Morrison's life began with a pivotal decision: to leave the Doors and relocate to Paris with Pamela Corson. This move in 1971 marked a significant shift in Morrison's life as he sought to escape the whirlwind of fame and the mounting troubles that had come to define his existence in the United States. Morrison's decision to leave the Doors was not sudden, but the culmination of years of inner turmoil and dissatisfaction. The pressures of fame, his legal troubles, and his increasingly problematic relationship with alcohol and drugs had taken a toll. Morrison longed for a fresh start, hoping to find in Paris the space and peace to focus on his writing, away from the demands of being a rock star. Paris, with its rich literary and artistic history, seemed the perfect refuge for Morrison. He envisioned a life where he could dedicate himself to his poetry and explore new artistic avenues. Morrison and Corson settled in the bohemian neighborhood of Le Marais, immersing themselves in the city's cultural life. Initially, this change of scenery seemed to have a positive effect. Morrison was seen to be healthier, and there were moments where he appeared to be rejuvenated by his new surroundings. However, the idealized escape to Paris did not go as planned. Morrison found it difficult to completely detach himself from his past life. His struggles with substance abuse continued, and his mental and physical health began to deteriorate. The dream of reinventing himself as a poet and writer was often overshadowed by his inability to escape the demons that had followed him from the United States. Morrison's time in Paris was a period of contrasts. On one hand, there were moments of tranquility and creativity, where he was seen writing in cafes, exploring the city, and enjoying a degree of anonymity that was impossible in the United States. On the other hand, there were periods of intense isolation, depression, and continued substance abuse, which alarmed those close to him. Despite the challenges, Morrison managed to write some new poetry during his time in Paris, which showed his ongoing commitment to his art. However, the hope for a complete transformation never fully materialized. Morrison's health, both mental and physical, was failing, and his behavior became increasingly erratic and self-destructive. The final days of Morrison's life in Paris are shrouded in mystery and speculation. On July 3, 1971, Morrison was found dead in his apartment's bathtub by Corson. The official cause of death was listed as heart failure, but the lack of an autopsy left many questions unanswered. Jim Morrison's move to Paris was a quest for renewal and escape, but it ultimately became the final act in the life of one of rock's most iconic figures. His death marked the end of an era and left a legacy tinged with brilliance, tragedy, and an enduring mystery that continues to captivate the imagination of fans and historians alike. The sudden and mysterious death of Jim Morrison in Paris gave rise to a myriad of conspiracy theories and alternate explanations, each adding layers of intrigue to the already enigmatic life of the rock legend. The lack of an autopsy, the closed casket funeral, and Morrison's well-known desire for privacy and reinvention fueled speculation that his death was not as straightforward as officially reported. One of the most prominent figures to offer an alternative account of Morrison's death was Marianne Faithfull. Known for her association with the Rolling Stones and her own music career, Faithfull had a connection to Morrison through her then-boyfriend Jean de Breteuil, a reputed drug dealer. In an interview years later, Faithfull recounted that de Breteuil had visited Morrison on the night of his death, allegedly to supply him with heroin. She expressed her belief that this heroin, which she described as too strong, might have played a role in Morrison's untimely demise. However, this account remains unsubstantiated, as there were no witnesses to confirm her version of events. Another intriguing narrative came from Sam Burnett, a former manager of the Rock and Roll Circus nightclub in Paris. Burnett claimed that Morrison had visited his club on the night of his death and had a drug overdose in the bathroom. According to Burnett, Morrison was found in a dire state, and in an effort to avoid a scandal, his body was quietly taken back to his apartment and placed in the bathtub, where Corson later found him. Burnett's account adds a layer of mystery and suspicion to the official story, suggesting a cover-up to protect Morrison's reputation and the club's business. Perhaps the most enduring and captivating theory is that Morrison faked his own death. Proponents of this theory point to Morrison's fascination with altering his identity and starting anew, his interest in esoteric subjects, and his desire to escape the pressures of fame. This theory was further fueled by reported sightings of Morrison after his supposed death, including a homeless man in New York City known as Richard, who some believe to be Morrison due to his resemblance and penchant for reciting poetry reminiscent of Morrison's style. These conspiracy theories and alternate explanations have been met with skepticism and have not been substantiated with concrete evidence. Yet, they continue to contribute to the mythos surrounding Morrison, reflecting the enduring fascination with his life and the mysterious circumstances of his death. The lack of definitive answers about Morrison's death has left it open to interpretation and speculation. Whether viewed as a tragic end to a troubled life or the final act of escape by a restless soul, the mystery of Jim Morrison's death remains a captivating chapter in the annals of rock history.